Hello, mindful friends. Today we're on step 2 of making peace with suffering. Last time we talked about step 1, which is to stop avoiding suffering. And today we're going to talk about step 2, which is stop fighting and resisting suffering. So after step 1, we say, well, great, I'm not avoiding suffering anymore. So that means I have to be with it. Yuck, right? Nobody wants to be with suffering. Nobody wants to stay with it and experience it. That doesn't sound fun at all. But this is the journey towards healing, and we'll get to how, after our next few steps. But when we're starting to experience suffering, the first kind of problem obstacle that arises next is our resistance to it, our desire to fight the suffering. And fighting the suffering is like what Thich Nhat Hanh and a lot of Buddhist teachings call the second arrow. So we have this hard experience. Now we didn't avoid it, we're experiencing it. And that's our first arrow of pain, of suffering, of the difficulty. Ooh, it hurts, it's uncomfortable, it's not fun. Then we like to send in the second arrow, which is our own resistance to it. It's our shoulds, our shouldn'ts, our this is not fair, this why always me, this life is out to get me. That feeling of resistance, of feeling like it's out to get you, judging yourself for it being there, that's the second arrow. It's fighting with the suffering. It's even can be the fighting of self in suffering, judging yourself for being in it. Can't believe you're going through this again. Can't believe that this is so hard for you. You have just injected a second arrow of suffering on top of the first one, which was just the experience itself. So what do? Well, we notice, right? So we have done the first step. Great, we're not avoiding it. Now we're experiencing it. We're recognizing the suffering in our life. I call it suffering, we could say discomfort, the struggle that you're in, the difficulty you're facing. You're there, you're noticing that now this is what it feels like, and we want to notice the tendency of the mind. Where does your mind go when you're first being with that experience? And notice the thoughts. Does it go right to, this shouldn't be happening? This is not how things should go. This always happens to me. It doesn't happen to anybody else. Why me? The woe is me. Or the judgment of self. You brought this upon yourself. Why did you bring this? And now observe, what's that doing for you when you have these thoughts of fighting that experience, of resisting that experience? How's it making you feel when you think that way? Life shouldn't be this way. What happens to your body when you think that? Well, you pull back, you tighten, you resist, there's pain, there's tension. That's the fight in you. That's that resistance. What does it feel like in the body? What does it feel like in the mind now that you're in this difficult situation and your approach to it is the fighting of it? What's that do in your mind? There's probably not a lot of peace there. It's probably not a lot of clarity. What it often does is narrow us down, close us into the box of that negativity, the darkness. And what does it do to your heart and your spirit when you're approaching the difficult situation this way? Does it open you up to possibility, help you to see the light, help you to move forward and grow? Or when you're thinking that way, does it close you off. You want to build the barriers. You want to build the walls up. And you don't, it gets harder to kind of connect with your spirit self or that light around you. We ask ourselves, well, is this really who I want to be in this situation? Is this helping? Is this serving me well through this experience of suffering or difficulty in my life? And based on what we just observed, that no, it tightens the body, it shuts down the mind, makes our vision not so clear, and closes the heart. That's not going to serve us well in healing from this situation and moving through it. So now we've noticed this isn't doing very well for me. This isn't working for me. So we shift. We say, okay, I know the nature of life. The nature of life is that these things aren't intentionally being done to me by life. The greater force out there isn't like shunning me with all of this, purposely spiting me. This is the nature of life. We know this, that things break, the body fails, our storms happen, our house has problems, water leaks. This is the nature of life. So if we can embrace that, from the start, when we notice that resistance mind, the fighting mind, this shouldn't happen, why me, woe is me, the victim. You're not a victim here. Don't fight the situation. This is the nature of life. I hate to say it. We get ill, things go wrong. The second we stop fighting that, the sooner we can move into healing and growing and transforming from it. But if we stay stuck in that fighting, we can never kind of lighten the load and move into the next stage. So as we're shifting, we're saying, okay, the fight's not helping. I know the nature of life. Life is not out to get me here. This isn't just happening to me. Ebbs and flows, ups and downs. I'm in a down. How do I want to approach this? And immediately, it starts to drop that second arrow we're putting in, that judgment of the situation, the saying that it, just happened to me, it's not fair. We lighten that load immediately. And how do we want to see this situation? Well, I see it as this is a part of life. This too belongs. This is the balance of all things. It's not unfair. It didn't just happen to me. This is the situation I'm in. How do I want to show up for it? Who do I want to be in this situation, which we'll talk a little bit more about next time in step 3. But for right now, we just want to take that shift away from the fight. Let go of the resistance. So that means opening. This too belongs. This is a part of life. How do I want to show up for it? And then we can be present now in the suffering, which we'll get to. It is hard, it is a struggle, but we don't have that extra pain and that extra difficulty of also trying to be angry at life for it happening. It happened. Don't be angry at life. Don't keep fighting life for it. Now ask yourself, how do I want to move through this? Who do I want to be in it? So this week I invite you to look into those places that you might be resisting or fighting the struggle in your life. That would be, anger at the world, saying the shoulds, always happens to me, woe is me, I'm the victim. Happens to all of us. Don't, it's okay, no judgment there. It can be our first tendency, but then ease yourself out of it and come back to this perspective. This too belongs. Who am I going to be through this? If you enjoy these talks and would like to join us for a group session or individual coaching, you can visit us at newleafmindfulness.com. And if you have a comment or a question, you can always leave them below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I hope to see you all very soon.